Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going back to the past once again because today marks the 25th anniversary of one of the greatest horror films of all time, and that would be the Blair Witch Project.
Tell me where you are, John!
So this is a horror movie that came back out in 1999, and although it didn't start the genre that is known as found footage, it basically probably could be considered the greatest found footage genre movie that there is ever been made. And I'm not the biggest fan of these movies, these found footage movies, because supposedly in a lot of them they're supposed to convey realism, like this is real life, and of course we're filming the whole thing like in our hands, and so it's supposed to be look real, and a lot of actors don't convey that realism now in these kind of movies. But I can definitely say that in this movie they convey realism to a T. The movie tells the story of these three college students who decide to make a video, more importantly, a documentary, and they're amateur filmmakers and they're doing a documentary on the Blair Witch. And during that time, they get lost in the woods and end up getting killed by the Blair Witch herself. But the thing is, what really captured the lore of this movie, people were hooked probably before they even walked to the theater because they really believed that this actually happened. So, they're watching a documentary of these three kids and how they died by the hands of a supernatural entity that we never see, because we never see the Blair Witch in the movie. But now that we know it's fiction, of course, nowadays any new person who watches this movie probably just knows that, oh, these people just got lost in the woods and they just died out there. So there's nothing really important about that. This movie was actually made on a fairly low budget, though a lot of people, I'm sure, know that people believe that it was done like for $35,000 to $60,000 was the main budget of this film. But it actually, further research in later years, found out that this movie actually did still break into the hundred thousands, which is still pretty low budget. It never did break the millions. There's never been a firm estimate about how much money was made or how much money was spent when this movie was made, but we all know that this movie was a huge success and made like 10 times what its original budget was. And it was mainly because of the realism and such simple techniques that this movie had was really what made it such an amazing film, and why it came to life when it came to the box office. And since this was a found footage film, there was no backtrack. So there was no music or no sound coming around in this film. So just the simple walking in the woods, the gusts of wind, the screaming you could hear that probably could come from any direction. It just amplified the horror of this film, and the fear just kept intensifying as it kept going on and on, until we get to the very end when the fear was at the most tense. The scariest scene in this movie, in my opinion, was when they were at the witch's house. This was when the fear was at its highest, and there was handprints all over the wall that looked like they were covered in blood, or they were made from people's blood. And then there was also weird writing as well. And then that ending, the way the movie ends, it just gets me every time. When that camera just dropped to the ground like that, and then the screaming that we had been hearing the whole time just came to an abrupt end, and then the movie was over, the fear didn't go away. The fear was still there, and all we have is our imagination as to what happened to these people, because we never saw the entity itself. We only saw what was happening around them, and it just heightened the fear knowing that we never saw it. So even though there was supposedly an error where the witch was actually supposed to appear, I'm glad they made that mistake and didn't show it, because that probably just made the fear even greater. It's amazing what can be shot with a film like this. You can, with such a simple techniques, just using screams, yelps, and shadows to convey the audience and to gain their attention. It's such simple techniques that could really work well. If someone decided to make a movie like this now, they probably wouldn't even have to spend a dime on it to make it. Blair Witch Project will always be remembered as not only one of the scariest films of all time, but also one of the most profitable films of all time.